Yeah, hello. Wishalonik, my brothers and sisters. Wishalonik. Today we are going to be talking about the ancient kemetic hairstyles. How they're not no Near Eastern hairstyles. These are all pure African hairstyles within the African continent. It's Afro-Consciousness of Wasudo, and let's start with the first tribe. Now, the first tribe is in Rwanda. Now, I don't know how to really pronounce this hairstyle, so bear with me. I believe it's called the Amazanzu. I'll put it up here on the screen. Many pharaohs wore this hairstyle, and it had very deep African root. Only this hairstyle is native to Africa, and till I see otherwise, I haven't seen not no Arab, no European, no Levantine, no Asian, like no other ethnic group wearing this hairstyle. This hairstyle is uniquely in tune with African culture. So you have like the Nile River, for example. The Nile River passed through many East African countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Sudan, Congo, etc. So Kemet will have a lot of these hairstyles related to the Nile Valley civilizations. Because if you don't know, many people from the south has migrated up to ancient Kemet. And so that's where you have this huge migration specifically from Sudan and Kenya and Rwanda and things like that. And they migrated up to Kemet. Now, I don't want to get in depth with the migrations and stuff like that, but I want to introduce you guys to this next tribe, which is called the Himba tribe. Now, the Himba tribe used this red clay powder mixture, and they put it in their hair. Now, this is what unique about this hairstyle. You know how we Black Americans, or Black people in general, we wear cornrows, but they wear the cornrows going to the front of the hair. And it's very unique and very different. Well, you don't see any other ethnic group wearing this hairstyle but the people in Africa today. Now, you have people in Egypt today that don't wear any of their brethren hairstyles. If they are a Near Eastern civilization, why don't they have any of their Near Eastern hairstyles? And what I mean by Near Eastern hairstyles, you have all the Arabs and Levantines and Persians. They all have the same, long mid-length or neck-length curly hair with a beard and etc. They all consistent with each other. You have the Hyksos, you have the Persians, you have the Syrians. They all have the same exact hairstyle consistent with each other. So if ancient Egyptians were a Near Eastern civilization, why are they not consistent in copying off their fellow brethren? Now, they claim that ancient Kemetic people use sheep hair, which is wool, by the way. Why, as a Near Easterner, are you using sheep hair to represent some other ethnic group? Now, I don't know about this generation, but back in the ancient days, our African brethren hardly ever used wigs or weave, and when they did use wigs or weaves, they used it to replicate their hair texture. You didn't see them using horsehair or straight animal fur to represent their hairstyles. You didn't see African people going and shaving off horsehair to replicate their hair texture. You seen them trying to find something that resembled their hair texture close as possible. So when you got these ancient so-called Near Eastern people in Egypt, you are saying that they use sheep hair, wool, to replicate their neighboring because they didn't fit in or something? Like, what is this? What are we doing? Instead, if they were a Near Eastern civilization, why didn't the people in Egypt use like horsehair or straight cow fur, like anything that resembling their hair texture? Why then would they use a woolly kinky look? Now, if you're going to say because they wanted to fit in with their brethren, like you guys say, is not the people from the South. It's the people from the East. It's the Near Easterners that they copy off of and they represent. So don't use an African hairstyle because you feel ashamed or you don't feel like you fit in. So don't get me wrong, the ancient Kemetic people did use horsehair, but it was always infused with the wool. And they never just used a pure straight horsehair to make a full-blown wig. They never did that. Now, ancient Kemetic people use their own hair or they use wool hair. Them the two materials they normally use, and at the end of the day, they still styled it like African people hairstyles. They never used any Near Easterner hairstyles. It was all pure African. Well, back in the day, you had African Americans, like I said, I don't know about this generation, but back in the day, African American women or people in Africa loved to use wigs and weaves that represented their own hairstyles, their own hair texture. I think that Black American women should stop going to Asian stores and making their pockets fatter. I feel like with our own hair is beautiful, it's natural, it's unique, and it's the most unique hair texture in the entire world. No other race can have this hair texture but us. So, and plus wearing this fake synthetic hair make your neck itch, you'll be having blisters and bumps and bruises. So try to stick with your own beautiful natural crown, your own crown. And so then you have people that saying, well, why are then black women wearing these different hair textures? Why are they wearing different hair textures? Why is it okay for them to wear, but not the ancient Kemetic people? First, there's a difference. Black Americans have got their identity stripped away. European men used to shave our hair. We had to wrap it up and cover it because it was too elaborate and beautiful, and it caught man attention. And that law was passed in Louisiana, New Orleans, and they have to cover their hair. So the European men have colonized our black men and women mindset to make them not love their hair. Now, this is why many black women are wearing these other hair textures. Now, I'm not saying this is for the full reason, but they either don't love themselves, they scared that their hair is too short, it's too damaged. They want to say it's a protected hairstyle, but is it really protecting your hair though? I feel like they wear it for multiple reasons. It's a cycle. During slavery, women had to cut their hair, cover it, and things like that to hate their hair. So that's why it's different from Kemet. The people in Kemet love their hair. They love their blackness. They love their African hairstyles. So there's no need for them to change their hair texture. Yes, black American women can wear wigs and weaves. Yes, ancient Kemetics can wear wigs and weaves. Well, at the end of the day, they would still replicate their own hair texture. They wouldn't wear a Near Eastern straight bob like they always show in movies. They would replicate their own hair texture and their brother in hair texture. Egyptians today don't wear any of their African Kemetic hairstyles, and when they do try to wear it, it looks ridiculous on them. It looks absolutely ridiculous. So I want to point out something. If you look on the ancient Kemetic paintings, you will see the men. You will see the men have a round ball to represent their hair with it shaded in with black. Now, how can we tell what hair texture that is? A couple months ago, I looked at the women, the ancient Kemetic women hair, and I seen their curl pattern. Their curl pattern was extremely tight and it looked like type 4 hair. It didn't look like type 1, type 2, or type 3. It looked exactly like type 4 hair texture. And so I realized that the ancient Kemetic women hair texture was like this. The ancient Kemetic man hair texture had to be like this. Because why would all the women hair texture be kinky and then all the man hair texture be loose curls? Now you guys are going to look at the mummies and say, look at the mummy hair texture. But at the end of the day, people in East Africa, especially East Africa, have these exact hair texture. And that will be moving on to my next tribe I wanted to point out. You have the Afar tribe. They had finger coils, they had afros, they had locks, they had twists, they had braids. They had all these African Kemetic hairstyle. And then you even have this in the Igbo tribe. The Igbo tribe had finger coils as well. And it's even on the Benin statues that they have finger coils. So you have the Kemetic people having finger coils, and many people say these are wigs, but you have the Afar people and Igbo or Idu people wearing the same hairstyle that the Afar men have and the ancient Kemetic have. So you have the Afar tribe, the Igbo tribe, and the Benin tribe that are all wearing this ancient Kemetic hairstyle, but only the Kemetic people are wearing wigs, but they are not. Let's make it make sense. And then you got people saying that all of ancient Egyptians had a wig, even the civilians. So even the civilians wore a wig, you telling me? So thousands and thousands of Near Eastern Levantine people was shaving tons and tons, hundreds of thousands of sheep fur, by the way, which is wool, just to resemble their neighboring, just to resemble a fake hair texture that they don't even have? That is diabolical. This is diabolical. Many Egyptians that say we are Egyptians, but we closer to the Near Eastern, we are Mediterranean civilization, but we are going to take thousands and thousands of sheep, shave them every single day, and then we are going to make wigs out of woolly texture hair and put it on our straight, curly Near Eastern heads. That's what it sounds like to me. That is ridiculous. Why? Why? You have the Nubians, the Sudanese people that literally wore wigs as well, but when they wore the wigs, it was wool texture because they know it replicate their own hair texture. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys know this, the Black American women, back in the day, when we braided our hair, we used a kinky texture hair, and we still do it today. We use kinky texture hair to feed in, like we do a lot of feed-ins. So a feed-in is like you take the fake kinky hair and your natural hair to make, and you combine them together to make the braid thicker. But we still use the kinky texture hair to replicate our own hair texture. We didn't use no Near Eastern or European or none of that hair texture because we can replicate our own hair texture. Now it was proven that Amenhotep wore a wig, and the wig was made out of sheep fur, which would make logical sense because he wanted to represent his own hair texture. He wanted to replicate it. So you got these Afro-Arabs, the Afro-Asians, the Afro-Hispanics that are scattered among the nations. They live in Mexico and Saudi Arabia or Yemen and China or Japan or Korea, and they still keep their African hairstyles to this day. And when you see these Afro-Arabs or these white and black mixed kids going to get their hair done, they also use the kinky hair texture to replicate their own hair texture. You got Black American women that are using fake hair, but they are still wearing their African hairstyles. Even though we have been enslavement, even though we have been colonized, we are still keeping our African roots strong. The Egyptians today lost everything dealing with their African roots. Everything. They don't do anything that the ancient Kemetic people do. I'm speaking on with the hairstyle. They don't wear cornrows, they don't wear braids, they don't wear locks, they don't wear any of that. They are now just starting doing this because they say, oh, well, I see my ancient ancestors, they was wearing braids, twists, and locks, so now I'm going to do it. But they just never thought to do it until they seen on the walls that they were doing it. It wasn't generational for them. It was lost. So I'm not going to bring up locks, braids, twists, afros, etc. because these are very common hairstyles that people still do today for thousands and thousands of years. I wanted to bring up the unique hairstyles that is only native to Africa that no other ethnic group uses. Still, you have these Near Easterners that say, well, it was a crown. No crowns were found. None. No crowns were found. The crowns were their hair. You see these hairstyles today that ancient Kemetic people use, and you see it throughout all of Africa. How is ancient Kemetic hairstyles crowns, but you see the same people right down the corner of the street from them using the exact same hairstyles, but they have their natural hair. They are not crowns. Literally, Egyptians can wear the ancient Kemetic hairstyles, but it will always be mistaken as a crown. But when you look next door, their neighbor is doing the exact same hairstyle, but they not wearing a crown. You see what I'm saying? No crowns were found. They literally found pieces of fabric, which wasn't even a crown. Now you have King Tut. You have King Tut crown, but that crown wraps around his head. It's not a crown that puts over your head. It's not a crown that was found that resembling that hairstyle. It wasn't. It was like a gold band around his head. And that was the only crown. And they had like the snake crown, the little snake crown they put in their hair and stuff. That was a crown. But the thing is, the snake crown was like a pick. You know how Black Americans use picks for their hair and it just like stays in the hair? That literally was the snake crown, or they put it on a golden band to wrap around their head. That was it. Their hair is the crown. Ancient Kemetic people did make wigs, especially the higher ups, the pharaohs. They made wigs. But it would make logical sense that Black Americans and Africans, Caribbeans, Afro-Caribbeans, all of them, it takes a long time to do our own hair. It takes many, many, many hours even to do, like, let's say 60 box braids. It takes like an hour to at least do 60 box braids. Why would I not, let's use common sense. I would make a wig or use weave to replicate this hairstyle. So let's say if I want to replicate the Rwanda hairstyle, I would use fake hair, which is wool, to replicate the texture of my hair. Then I would use beeswax and things to seal the hair tightly together to compact it, to make the shape of the hairstyle. I would shape it all out, and then I would set it on my nightstand. And then in the morning when I wake up, I would just put it on. That would make more logical sense than just every single day when you wake up, you have to constantly take hours and hours to do the same hairstyle. But why would I do that if I already have it made? That's what the pharaohs was thinking. The pharaoh was like, why constantly every single day keep redoing my hair like this style if I can just make a wig to replicate the hair texture in the same style I want to wear almost every single day, the style that I love, and I replicate it, and I put it on my nightstand, and now when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to sit in the chair for 8 to 10 hours if I have the crown right there, or if I have the wig right there to put on. So that is why the ancient pharaohs wore these hairstyles. The hairstyles were the crowns. And it's just too much evident that the ancient Kemetic people wore purely African hairstyles. It's Afro-Consciousness of a pseudo. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be doing a part 2 of ancient Kemetic hairstyle. Hope you guys enjoy it. God bless you guys.